Brian Gewirtz, the former seventh most powerful man in WWE, according to him, has been making the interview rounds. He's got a book that he's promoting. I have not had a chance to check out the book. It's called There's Just One Problem. And the subtitle, I think, is Stories from the former seventh most powerful guy in professional wrestling or in WWE. By all accounts, it's getting really good reviews already. I'm probably going to scoop it up on Audible, and when I do, I'm going to do a review of it for you guys. But he's got a book out kind of talking about his time as the head writer or one of the head writers in WWE. And this was right after Vince Russo left. Brian Gewirtz, I think, came in and kind of filled that initial team that was put in place after Russo left. So he's been around a long time. Now he works for The Rock. And he's kind of the right-hand man for anything with The Rock. He gets a movie role or a TV part or even a fucking walk-on role on Saturday Night Live. Brian Gewirtz is helping write his scripts for everything, or looking over his scripts and finding ways to reword it to sound more rock-like. So that's a pretty good gig for him. Pretty good gig. But Gewirtz has been making lots of interview rounds. He's been all over the place. Really, I could have picked any handful of interviews that he's done to do this clip from. But I felt like he went into a little bit more detail about the whole wrestler's court thing. That's what really had me intrigued. As I understand it, he starts his book with that story. So I'm excited to, get the full inside dirt on that, but he touched on it. I was going to actually use the clip that he did on Renee Paquette's podcast, but then when he was on Talk Is Jericho, he kind of went into more detail about that. Check out this clip from that episode, and then I'll catch you on the back end.
If you violate a locker room rule, you get taken to wrestler's court. And I was, I think, the first writer who ever allegedly violated a rule backstage. And the rule that I violated, to get into, was like Edge knowing that I liked the Flash. He gave me a Flash action figure. Bob Holly saw him giving me the Flash action figure.
Oh, no.
It's like the last person you want to see. On the surface level, it's very, light and funny, like, you got a doll, huh? But the subtext is actually kind of serious. Like the subtext but Bob wasn't being used on TV as much, and Edge and Christian were all over the place. And here's the head writer, getting a toy from one of the guys who's, being featured. It was really more about, all the locker room violations I had violated without knowing it.
Right, because you just don't know.
Yeah.
There's no handbook of rules to tell you how to act backstage.
Exactly. Taker did find us guilty, which was kind of a foregone conclusion.
Right.
Brian Gewirtz. I like hearing these stories from the inside. That's why I'm so excited to get my hands on this book and check it out, because I love these backstage stories from, I literally cannot get enough of anything backstage. It's endlessly fascinating to me. Like wrestling to me is as much the industry and the backstage shit and the characters and the politics and the personalities and the things that happen behind the scenes that go into the TV product more than it is even the TV product for me. Wrestling is great to watch and fun to watch, and there's a lot of people that do that. They like wrestling for the show, and they don't listen to all the podcasts or read the news sites or anything like that. I love all the dirt. I love the backstage shit. And that's why I love all these, these documentaries on the WWE Network and the A&E biographies and the Dark Side of the Rings. And then these books, these tell-all books from the people that were there and they lived it, and you hear these stories and they're just fantastic. And Brian Gewirtz is such a wealth of knowledge for this sort of thing. He was around for so long, worked so closely with Vince and the talent. As a writer, as one of the head writers, that's a key position, when you're working with the wrestlers, helping them write their scripts and come up with their promos. and just figuring out their character and doing their angles and their backstage stuff or whatever. And then just having to work so closely with Vince too on the creative side, and Vince shutting down his ideas and just any kind of Vinceism. Vince is a fascinating person, He always something to wrestle always talks about. Bruce always talks about, and Conrad will say it too, he always asks for a Vince McMahon episode. Well, every episode's a Vince McMahon episode because you always get that little bit of insight on, how Vince reacted to this or did that. And I think that's another reason why I like all these insider things is Vince is just such a fascinating person. And to hear these stories about people that were working close with him and just the way that he talks about things and says things and the way that his mind works, it's all great shit. I wish I would have, there's literally zero time to be able to just shove that whole book in and be able to give you any kind of comment on it here now. But Gewirtz is making those rounds and doing all those interviews. I highly recommend just jumping in and listening to any of those. If you haven't, take your pick. If you listen to the wrestling podcast, I guarantee you've seen Brian Gewirtz's name pop up within the last week or two. And if you haven't listened to any of those, or you're not sure who he is or if it'll be entertaining, you go out of your way to listen to him because it is entertaining too. He's a writer for The Rock for that matter. So he's a smart guy, a sharp guy. He gets it. He's thoughtful. He's funny. He's a great guy to listen to those stories from, and especially, just this whole wrestler's court experience, about how seriously they take it too, because he said, I thought this whole thing was just kind of a joke and stuff, and I was trying to be funny, and it wasn't funny. They took it very seriously, even though that they were all, it is a joke. It's a kind of a way to relax when you're on the road, relieve some stress, and just kind of a way to entertain the boys in a lot of ways. But there were serious charges against him too. It's bigger than the action figure. It's, are you taking bribes to give more TV time to talent? That's a serious accusation. And especially coming from Bob Holly. Jesus Christ. If I was a wrestler in that era or just working for the company in any capacity, the last two people I want on my bad side are going to be JBL and Bob Holly, right? You don't want those fucking two guys on your case. Maybe a Chris Benoit. An Undertaker, he's somebody who carries the weight and the sternness, but he's not a bully. He doesn't have the reputation of being an asshole to people or anything like that, so I would deeply not want to upset him as well, but for different reasons, for respect purposes. But a JBL, fucking Bob Holly, those people are going to make your life a living hell if they don't like you or you rub them the wrong way. So Wrestler's Court, man, super interesting, very fascinating. Just the whole process and just, man, I'd love to hear more stories about other instances of Wrestler's Court. But I'm excited to dive into this book. I'm excited to hear more from Brian Gewirtz. Go out of your way to listen to some of it, any of it, and I will follow up with a separate video doing a review of the book once I've had a chance to dive into it.
Let me tell you something, brother. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on this channel, dude. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.